Tom Selleck's Jesse Stone and Jack Reacher have one major difference, and this scene perfectly shows it. Tom Selleck's Jesse Stone and Jack Reacher have been compared to one another, but there's one line that the former would never cross. Before the arrival of Blue Bloods, the Jesse Stone TV movies were keeping Selleck busy. He made 9 entries between 2005 and 2015, though with Blue Bloods ending there is renewed chatter about Jesse Stone 10. On the surface, Stone and Jack Reacher don't appear to share much in common, but appearances can be deceiving. Reacher is a hulking, often monosyllabic brute who roams America and often gets into trouble, while Stone is a 60-year-old alcoholic police chief in a small Massachusetts town that attracts an awful lot of crime. One major similarity is that both men want to see justice done, and they'll bend the rules to see that happen. Reacher is typically more direct in this regard, including the book where he bear hugs a man to death, but Stone typically engineers situations where the bad guys are forced into confrontations with him. Stone Cold's ending shows the line that Jesse Stone won't cross in the Jesse Stone books. The character is a good 20 years younger than Selleck, but the star liked the character so much that he signed on for Stone Cold. This first film set the template for what followed, while author Robert B. Parker gave Selleck 2 rules for Jesse Stone via TV Insider. He will forever be hung up on his ex-wife, and he will always have a drinking problem. Stone Cold's ending saw Jesse lure 2 serial killers into a confrontation, but after shooting one of them, he resisted the urge to execute the other in cold blood. By this point in the story, this thrill-kill couple made things personal with Stone by murdering his love interest, Abby, Polly Shannon. Stone's quest for revenge made him set a trap to kill them both, though after he shoots and kills Brianna, Jane Addams, when she fires on him, Andrew, Reg Rogers, claims he never killed anybody. He also refuses to pick up Brianna's gun when Stone orders him, and while the chief visibly wrestles with the choice, Jesse won't cross the line of executing an unarmed man. Stone might walk right up to the line, but he ultimately doesn't consider himself above the law. This is one area where Stone and Reacher differ, as the latter would have shot both killers without a moment's hesitation or regret. Typically, Reacher tries to avoid getting himself involved with other people's problems, but once he is, there are few rules he will obey. He has no trouble killing to defend himself, or if he feels the other person deserves it. In the case of Stone Cold, the Lincolns murder people just for the visceral thrill, and also feel themselves smarter than everyone else, Stone included. Had Reacher encountered the duo, the notion of a line or black or white simply wouldn't apply. He would have killed them, and then probably caught a bus out of town or gone to a diner for coffee and pancakes. Jesse Stone is a character fighting against his many demons and struggles with the notion of right and wrong. Unlike Stone, Reacher has no inner demons to speak of, and his thoughts on justice are intensely simple. Despite this, Stone and Reacher share a lot in common. They both love dogs and coffee, have surprisingly active love lives despite their issues, and are crack shots with guns. While Jesse has boundaries about how far he's willing to go, like Reacher, he will still stretch the limits to see that the guilty parties get punished. Tom Selleck's portrayal of Jesse Stone in the series of made-for-TV films and the various incarnations of Jack Reacher, played by Tom Cruise in the earlier films and Alan Ritchson in the Amazon series, may seem to have much in common at first glance. Both are tough, no-nonsense figures who live by their own moral codes. They operate as lone wolves, taking on crime and injustice wherever they encounter it, usually with little regard for the chain of command or external approval. However, there is one major difference that defines them as characters, and it is subtly showcased in specific moments of their respective series. In a key scene from Jesse Stone, Night Passage, we see how this difference manifests in a quietly devastating way. Jesse Stone, a former Los Angeles homicide detective, has been hired as the chief of police in a small New England town despite his clear personal struggles. He is deeply flawed, battling alcoholism and wrestling with the ghosts of his past, including his failed marriage. The scene takes place late at night, with Jesse sitting alone at his desk in the small police station, nursing a drink. It's a scene marked by stillness, no thrilling action or high-octane chase, just a man grappling with his demons. In contrast, a similar moment of isolation and reflection appears in the Amazon series Reacher, where Jack Reacher, the ex-military police major, is confronted with his own version of loneliness. But unlike Stone, Reacher is utterly unfazed by his solitary existence. Reacher, who lives his life out of a backpack and never stays in one place for long, thrives on being alone. In this particular scene, Reacher is in a dingy motel room, sharpening his knife. It's a moment of calm before the storm, but there's a sense of purpose in Reacher's movements. He is preparing for a fight. His solitude is not a burden to him, it is a necessary condition for his mission. Reacher is content in his self-reliance. These two scenes encapsulate the core difference between Jesse Stone and Jack Reacher. For Stone, solitude is a consequence of his flaws. It's something that he fights against but can never quite escape. His isolation is tinged with sadness, rooted in his guilt and unresolved pain. His quiet moments are haunted by regret. For Reacher, on the other hand, solitude is a choice. He has built his life around it, embracing his independence and detachment from the world. It is a source of strength, not weakness. In Jesse Stone, Night Passage, the scene where Stone quietly contemplates his life and his position as police chief reveals his vulnerability. He is a man who, despite his best efforts, is broken inside. Selleck plays Stone with a kind of quiet despair, his face etched with lines that tell a story of loss and failure. His drinking is not just a habit, but a symptom of his deeper issues. It is his way of numbing himself from the constant pain of being Jesse Stone. There's a palpable weight in the scene, a feeling that Stone is always on the verge of giving up, even as he continues to go through the motions of being a police officer. Reacher, by contrast, operates with a different kind of emotional detachment. In the scene where he methodically sharpens his knife, there is no sense of inner turmoil. Reacher is laser-focused on the task at hand, preparing for whatever violence or confrontation is coming next. His lack of connection to the world around him is deliberate and serves a practical purpose. He doesn't need people, and he doesn't let emotions cloud his judgment. Reacher is a machine of efficiency and justice, and his moments of solitude are not spent reflecting on his past mistakes, but on preparing for his next move. This key distinction between the two characters, Stone's emotional vulnerability versus Reacher's emotional detachment, highlights the central difference in their motivations and personalities. Stone is deeply human, flawed, and driven by a need to find some kind of redemption, even if he isn't sure what that looks like. His personal struggles color everything he does, from his relationships to his approach to law enforcement. Reacher, on the other hand, is almost superhuman in his single-mindedness. He doesn't wrestle with personal demons because he has already chosen to live a life that avoids such entanglements. Where Stone's scenes are quiet, introspective, and tinged with melancholy, Reacher's moments of solitude are purposeful and focused. Both men are loners, but for entirely different reasons. Stone's loneliness is a reflection of his inner turmoil, while Reacher's is a reflection of his pragmatic, self-sufficient nature. In these two scenes, we see how this fundamental difference shapes their actions and their stories. Stone's vulnerability makes him a more tragic figure, while Reacher's detachment makes him a relentless force. These two iconic characters, though similar in some ways, are ultimately defined by how they relate to their own solitude, and that is what sets them apart. We see how this fundamental difference shapes their actions and their stories. Stone's vulnerability makes him a more tragic figure, while Reacher's detachment makes him a relentless force. These two iconic characters, though similar in some ways, are ultimately defined by how they relate to their